Assalamualaikum and very good morning. Welcome to our Sembang Chillex Kejuruteraan session. Sembang Chillex is a casual talk series organised by InfoPub stand committees of IEM. We have 3 segments. We have a Sembang Chillex Kejuruteraan, we have a Sembang Chillex podcast, and we have a Sembang Chillex regional. Normally, where we have a guest from our ASEAN counterparts. Okay, today's Sembang Chillex Engineering is titled ESG in Engineering, A Journey Through Time. And we are honoured to have a special guest with us today. Okay, please welcome our Vice President of IEM, Dato Engineer Nur Hisham Muhammad Ghazali. Okay, welcome Dato.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, let me introduce a little bit about Dato Nur Hisham. She's an independent non-executive director at Pengurusan Aset Air Berhad Paab and a chairman of a Malaysian Water Partnership. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering from California State University and a Master degrees in Coastal and Maritime Engineering from University Technology Malaysia. Okay, with over 35 years of experience, he has held significant roles including Director General of the Department of Irrigation and Drainage Malaysia, DID, and a National Institute of Water Research Malaysia, NAHRIM, specializing in coastal engineering and erosion control. He has pivotal in integrating advanced technology into DID's coastal program and led the integrated shoreline management program. Wow. Quite amazing, Dato. Okay, his notable achievement include establishing the National Flood Forecasting and Warning Centre and constructing Malaysian first concrete sabo structure to mitigate debris and mud flood flows. His direct involvement in a major event like the 2004 tsunami and a post-2014 East Coast floods has provided him with extensive experience in water-related disaster risk management. Dato? Okay. Since retiring, he focused on education and consultancy in integrated water resources management and coastal engineering. Okay, Dato. Quite an extensive experience and very amazing, I would say that very amazing experience that you have there. So, first question, Dato, because we are talking about the ESG. So, we have a various concepts like KPIs, SDG, green technology, sustainability, climate change, and low carbon, and so on and so forth. Now, with ESG being a focal point, could you clarify what is ESG specifically means? Does it addressing the same issue like KPI, SDG, low carbon, and etc.? Over to you, Dato.
Thank you, Rusnida. When we talk about sustainability, it's about ensuring that our future generation can experience what we experience today in terms of the environment and also what nature can provide. So when I was in government, we were talking all about SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah.
But once I left, the ESG came into the picture. So what is ESG? It's environment, social, and governance. So in government, you have a lot of governance, and you also have environment, of course, and of course you have social. But when it comes to the corporate sector, the ESG are basically the parameters of measuring sustainability of an organization.
Oh, okay.
So they become sort of targets or KPIs to a certain degree. So you can think of SDG is national, ESG is corporate or organizations.
Okay. I read somewhere that the term ESG was officially coined in 2004 in a United Nations report titled Who Cares Win. So, in Malaysia, ESG gained the momentum in 2016. I mean, after 8 years, then only the ESG come to Malaysia. And it was Bursa Saham Bursa Malaysia that enhanced the sustainability report, that they are making that the ESG disclosure mandatory is mandatory for the public listed company to publish. So this initiative, according to the Bursa Malaysia, is to aim to standardize the ESG reporting, align with the best practice to boost the investor confidence. So as Dato was saying just now, that ESG is concentrate more on the private. So could you explain more in terms of the significance of ESG in the engineering?
Okay, I will look at ESG. There is a sort of a delayed reaction, but actually we realized that it is coming in the future at that time, back in the mid of 2000s. We already knew that it was coming, but we were focusing on the development goals, right? Okay, when corporate bodies and in the Western or developed countries start to implement the ESG principles, they start to put regulations on the kind of imports they're going to get.
Okay.
So slowly, the nations that are exporting to the, for example, to the European Union, they are faced with certain controls on how they produce their products, how much energy they are using, how much water they are using. So slowly and surely, as the countries we export to start to impose these regulations, then our manufacturers and our exporters have to then suit their production and their business to what their importing countries want.
Okay. Does that means making that the private company comply to some of the certain standards by the ESG? But what is the example, if you can share with us, what is the example of the principles that they have?
Okay. For example, first they want to know how much energy you use. So if you are a small exporter of something, let me share an example. This is a real case of a company that exports that manufactures the leather straps for the watch companies in Europe.
Okay.
So there came a time when suddenly the watch company says, "Can we know what is your carbon footprint for the production of this leather strap?"
Yeah.
So this company then suddenly realized that, I've got to come up with this. I've never done this before, but now they want it. So it becomes a regulation. So this company then will have to go through their processes and identify how much energy they use.
Okay.
So how much electricity they use. And if they are using parts to produce that strap, those parts come from where and how much energy does that come in. So that leads to understanding the ESG. In terms of energy management, you have several tiers. The first one is how much energy you use. So
okay. Meaning that during the process of the manufacturing of the strap leather, so each of the component must comply the ESG principles. Meaning that the process must according to sustainability, how maybe you some sort of comply to the low carbon and the carbon footprint and etc.
Right. That is a very basic. The example I gave is a very basic example because producing the strap perhaps is not so complex as if you produce, for example, latex gloves.
Okay.
Right. Then there is a process of energy usage, and then you have what you call processes to go through, and those processes require energy. So for complex processes, you have more things to look at. So when an importer specifies that, okay, we want to see your carbon footprint, then the exporter will then have to go through that process. So these regulations are getting more strict as you go along. So that's why when we at the beginning the conditions are not that very strict, but as they become more advanced, they become more institutionalized, and they have said that, okay, this is what we want. You need to have a sustainability report. So what Bursa did was to make sure that there is a guideline for them to follow. And this is how you produce your sustainability report.
Okay. Earlier, Dato mentioned that it concentrates on the private companies. How about the government sector? So have government, is it have nothing to do with the ESG, or government must also impose some of in their projects also on?
Okay, what the government should be aware of is that when it comes to ESG, it's not just the corporate bodies that are affected, not only the manufacturers or the exporters, but government plays an important role in helping in exports, right, for the country's benefit. So in government, although we are dealing with national level sustainability targets, but they must always be assisting and facilitating the businesses.
Okay.
So it is not difficult for a government agency to understand the process of ESG. For example, preparing your carbon footprint is not really difficult, because you can just first look at how much fuel that you're using to run your fleet of vehicles. How much is your energy bill? Your water bill can tell you something about your water footprint. So even if you are in government, you can subscribe to the ESG principle very easily, because it's already there. It's only not being categorized or put into the language of ESG. But we do have care for the environment. We do look into the welfare of our employees, and we also look at how we govern our systems.
Okay. In engineering project,
right?
How does any engineering company or engineering firm, if they want to apply the ESG, at where and when do they apply this in their projects? Let's say they have a infrastructure project or buildings project, where they can apply this ESG in their projects.
Okay, I would say that this is an area where I think the engineering companies are not yet very aware of, right? Because usually in the corporate world, the ESG is compliance to a certain regulation or requirement by your client, right? So in the example of an exporter of a product, so the importer, say the importer is from the US or from the Europe, they will say, I need to see your sustainability report on this particular project, your product, and you put in what is the parameters, which is the environment, how does your product impact the environment, and how do you manage your employees and the social, and then your compliance to your local laws and international laws. So those are the three things under ESG. Now, if you're an engineering company, you are already automatically governed by so many local rules on environment control, your EQA, right? Your EIA, your local planning, the kebenaran merancang, and then you also you have to also be aware of the impact of your project to the economy, to the locals, which is the social aspect, the stakeholder engagement that you have when you want to build a building or you want to do a project. So these are all ESG in the form of the project itself, right? But your client may not necessarily request, I want to see your sustainability report. But that's not impossible. Who knows, one day in the future, the government says, okay, company X, for one of the qualifications is, I want to see your sustainability report for sustainability report of your company. Then they will impose that. If that happens, then all engineering companies will have to start to look at ESG.
I see. Okay. Meaning that actually we, in the engineering or in any project, we are already practice the ESG in terms of EIA report.
Yep.
I think now they have a social impact assessment.
Exactly.
The latest one that we have, they want to know about because social is still under the ESG also. So EIA, TIA, so all that can we combine to become the ESG actually, right?
Yes.
Not necessarily like, ESG report, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Understood.
What Bursa does is it prepares for you, this is the format that is consistent.
Yeah.
So you follow that format. So the governance is in the integrity pack. And anti-rasuah, that's all governance in there.
The ABM, the anti-bribery management system, ABMS, and etc. Okay. Meaning that we already comply. We are already started
to
use the ESG, practice the ESG, right? Okay. Next, let's discuss we break down each component of the ESG. Starting with the E for environment. So, okay, Dato. How can engineering project adapt to this aspect, environment?
Okay. If you're going into a project and you have, if it falls under the prescribed activities, okay, our local EQA, Environmental Quality Act. So that is essentially the environmental aspect. And then how you conduct your project when you open up land, you have the erosion and control plans. Those are all part of environment. And then when you have erosion control plan, it's basically protecting our rivers and also our what goes downstream of the project site. Yeah. So those are the environmental aspects that we do in engineering. Okay, that's for civil works.
Yeah.
It's basically for civil works.
Okay. Okay. Next, let's discuss about the S, social. Okay. Could you explain further, Dato, about social in terms of the role in engineering?
Okay, social in terms of engineering, I think it applies to any company that has employees, right? And then you have an employee-employer relations. Now, as an employer, you are to provide what do you call a good working environment, a safe working environment for your staff. You're supposed to create a very productive environment for them, a pleasant environment. For companies which employ a lot of workers, especially in manufacturing, you have to ensure that their housing is taken care of, their welfare is taken care of. So the social aspect in engineering or in any other industry is about taking care of your workers, paying them what they are worth, providing them with the benefits that which is within their rights as employees to have.
Okay, Dato. Lastly, governance, G. What is the importance of the good governance and how does it reflect with the field of engineering?
Okay, in governance, we have adherence to laws, right? You have to abide by whatever regulations are in place. That's one thing about that. And then you have the governance of your own company's conduct. You have to have a company that is transparent and always with integrity in their actions. So this is the part of governance. One is governance that is imposed through regulations. And you responding to what are the laws of the land. And the one is the governance that you impose on yourself, which is the integrity part.
Okay.
And how you conduct your business ethically and fairly in the competition and also in response to the community that you are in. So that's the governance.
Oh, okay. Okay, Dato. I've read somewhere that PricewaterhouseCoopers SDG Challenge 2020 revealed that 73% of Malaysian companies mention the SDG in their reporting. Okay?
Yes.
But only 20% has integrated the SDG in their business strategy. So although there are a lot of companies mention about the SDG from 1 to SDG 16, okay, given that the SDG also is a highlight key area in the ESG consideration, so it's evidence that ESG has not yet become a focus for the many companies lah. Okay, Dato, what would you suggest to help this company to emphasize more on ESG?
Like I said earlier, we are more of a reactive, typically reactive in business. We react to laws.
Okay.
Essentially, if there is no law, then you do business as usual. But once a law is imposed upon you, then you adhere by the law and you abide by the rules. Okay. Now, how companies evolve is when their employees evolve. So within the employees is the social part. Now, as their awareness grow, right? then they will want more things from the company. They want more better facilities, better perks and all that.
Yep.
Now they will then drive the company towards a different culture of operation.
Okay.
So then the companies realize that if I want to employ good people, the new generation will want this. And I don't have that now. If I don't have that now, I can't get good talent. So the company then changes. It says, okay, for the employee, you have this kind of qualification. These are the perks. Right? Now, as you are joining a company, you will then start to choose. I would like to join a company that is transparent, that is fair to workers, and does its business in a very commendable way.
Yeah.
Now, let's put to you in a real example, right? There is a factory. You work for a factory or a company that produces a rubber product, let's say. Okay. Then suddenly one day, the authorities say that you are dumping your waste into the river. And then there's a lot of bad publicity. You as an employee, your friends will be saying your company is destroying the environment. How do you feel about that? You say, why am I working for this company that's bad? I don't want to be attached to a company that is doing this bad thing. Right? Then you will want to leave. Right? And you want to work for a company. Where do you want to join? I'm looking for a company that is very ethical in your work. They protect the environment. They have a good program, CSR program. That's the company I want to work with and I want to be associated with. They will go for these jobs. So that's how the employer will react to a company that is not responding to the changes that ESG brings in.
So, are you saying that the government must impose first for all the companies to comply a certain degree of ESG? Then only maybe we can get 100% companies, or is it the government must give some incentive to the companies who comply with the ESG?
Now, the companies will look into all the ESG aspects and then they will ask the question, what's in it for the bottom line? How does it help my bottom line? Why, when I embrace all this, is it going to cost me more? Am I going to get more businesses? Now, there is a study by McKinsey that says that there are 5 aspects which of reasons that why you should embrace the ESG. So among them is that there is growth. It encourages growth because as you establish yourself into a company that is ESG conscious and sustainability conscious, you put yourself into a different level than the normal company. Right? So, and then there is also the part where you attract good talent, which I mentioned earlier. So when companies with high principles, you attract good talent with also high principles. So this is all interrelated. So that's just 2 of the examples how it can help. Companies should embrace ESG. The other one is regulations. Like I told you, regulations get tighter and tighter as they go along. So now there is no regulation on a particular for all companies to do it, but Bursa is taking it gradually. So now it has created a format. Everyone try to adhere to this. So companies will now look at, okay, how do we start? Start with a statement, a vision statement, or what you want your company to be now, maybe in 10 years' time. Right? Maybe you shouldn't be waiting 10 years before you do. You should start immediately if I were to understand how the trend is. So companies should now think in terms of how they can become more sustainable in how they operate. And then what is the impact of their operations to the environment, to the people that work for them, to their community, and also their contribution to the country. So how do you want to bring them? Regulation is one. But it is better that you change now before the regulation is imposed, or else you will find yourself in the shock situation where you suddenly cannot export, which is what happened when the European Union started to impose the CBAM, they call it. And this is about the rules that you have to, the requirements of sustainability reporting before you can export. Once they impose that, you cannot send your goods to Europe until you fulfill that requirement. And you want to be ready before the rules are put in place. So change now before you are forced.
Change now, right? Okay. I believe that this will be our final question for today's session. considering the emerging trends and technologies that will influence the future of ESG in engineering, what are your thoughts on the future trends for Malaysia?
Good question, indeed. Very good question. So, I would say that the interaction between government and businesses should be accelerated in terms of, like you mentioned, something about incentives. Now, I can't say much about what kind of incentives the government can do, but for a start, you can introduce a lot of seminars on awareness, right? To expose companies to how the ESG process is done. And then maybe even to look into the kind of incentives you look is usually they will look for tax incentives. And also we can also allocate, the government can also allocate funding for training, funding to assist companies to come up with their sustainability report, at least the first level of sustainability reporting. There should be some means of support from the government towards that, rather than give them just blanket subsidies. Create a mechanism for the government to help companies who want to go into sustainability reporting, assist them into coming up with their first level reports.
Okay, Dato.
Especially the small companies which don't have much, make very little.
Okay, Dato. Okay, thank you very much, Dato Hisham, for sharing your valuable insights and on the ESG during today's Sembang Chillex Engineering Talk.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, for a reminder to all the companies, I would say, start today, right? Before the government impose the ESG something standard and etc. to the company. Okay, so we also like to extend our heartfelt thanks to our audience for their participation. Okay. Up next, we will have a second talk with our Vice Chair of Women Engineers, Prof. Dr. Zuhaina Zakaria. Please stay tuned as we continue to explore ESG from a different perspective. Thank you once again. Sembang Chillex will be back shortly. Thank you very much, Dato.
You're most welcome.